Senate to order. Sergeant Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, we have someone who is not a stranger today joining us for the invocation. We have Rabbi Ari Goldstein from Temple Beth Shalom in Arnold, Maryland, guest of the Distinguished Senator from the 33rd District. Members, please rise for the invocation.
Thank you, and before I start, just want to tell you how grateful I am to have me here. I'm not lost on me is the darkness that my people are dealing with in the state of Israel right now, the darkest time ever since the Holocaust for sure, and so having me here really means a lot, and I really appreciate it. So the story is told of a man who would go to the ocean, to the shore, to clear his mind. One morning after an unusually large storm had just passed, he was on one of his beach walks, and he found that the sand was littered with starfish, as far as the eye could see in every direction. Off in the distance, the man saw a young girl approaching. As the girl walked, he noticed that she would pause every so often to bend down, pick up an object, and toss it into the sea. Once the girl was close enough, the man called out, "Good morning, may I ask what you're doing?" The girl replied, "I'm throwing starfish into the ocean. The tide washed them onto the beach, and they are unable to return to the sea themselves." The man then said, "But there must be tens of thousands of starfish on the beach. I don't think you'll be able to make a difference." The girl bent down and picked up another starfish. She showed it to the man, then threw it into the water, and she said, "It made a difference to that one. Standing before you is a privilege I do not take lightly. Each and every one of you sits and stands at this moment at these tables because you had and continue to have high hopes in making our state a better place. Unless I am mistaken, no one took this position for the money." I researched your salaries. You took it because you felt that our state could be better, and you had lofty and noble ideas to bring us to that better place. But then you noticed that wide sweeping changes were much harder to achieve than you originally anticipated. Not only does it take time, but it also takes others who are willing to join you in your efforts. But remember, while you may have started your journey to this place hoping to clear the entire metaphoric beach of Maryland of the tens of thousands of starfish, in truth, the work you do often seems like more of a grind. And you may ask yourself from time to time if your efforts are truly making the monumental changes that you originally dreamed of. But like our story, you should know that your work and your efforts make a profound difference. Sometimes for the state of Maryland, sometimes for specific communities, sometimes for individuals, and sometimes even for future generations. Oh God, may you bless the members of this Senate with strength and determination and confidence. And may you help them to recognize the difference that they are making even with the smallest of steps. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 33rd District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the rabbi for being here today. I have the good fortune of sharing the rabbi with the senator from District 30. The rabbi is a leader not only here in Anne Arundel County, but beyond. During the end of the year, when everyone else were putting their feet up, the rabbi was putting his feet to work in Israel. He was there to be of service to displaced families, to farmers, to families of soldiers, to families of hostages there, by giving blood, by bringing supplies, and helping wherever he could. He also visited the site of the Nova Festival massacre to mourn the tragic and horrific loss of life there. So I want to thank the rabbi for his work, his service, not only here but beyond. And I would be remiss if I didn't also thank him on behalf of my daughter Lucy, who attends the preschool at Temple Beth Shalom. She refers to the rabbi as her rabbi, and she's very, very upset that she couldn't be here today to say hello to him as well. So thank you very much, Rabbi, and I'd ask that the rabbi's invocation be journalized. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. Thank you. And without objection, most certainly, the starfish story hits the right spot sometimes. It can be a grind, but your work matters, and thank you for what you do. Yes, Chair recognizes Senator from Prince George's.
If I may, Mr.
Please.
President, I want to thank you for that. That was very meaningful. It meant a lot to all of us. And I would ask you, Mr. President, if you can slip that out of his pocket into yours and hand it to me. I won't have to worry about a sermon for this Sunday. Just try, okay? Thank you.
That's it. I love it. I love it. You know what? That's right. Imitation's the greatest form of flattery, right? That's it. It's excellent. Duly noted, right? Yeah. No, well said, well said. Excellent. All right. Well, has everyone recorded their presence in the chamber? It appears so. The clerk will take the call. With 42 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. We have mostly full, just a couple illnesses, and then a few folks who are attending a service for our former colleague today. So certainly those are excused absences. All right, let's see. Do we have any introductions? Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Montgomery County.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, we are very fortunate to have people that come every day to make sure that our health and well-being is taken care of. And it gives me a great honor, and many of you know him, Dr. Darrell Hill, who's a resident of District 14, is the doctor of the day. He's with the Laurel Medical Association. Dr. Hill, great to see you. Welcome.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you. Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore City, 45th District.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, if we can give a warm welcome, I'm joined by my staff here. Kristen Duggar, she's currently pursuing her master's degree at American University, works very tirelessly, not just for our city, but right now for our great state of Maryland. So thank you, Mr. President, and if we can give her a warm welcome.
Most certainly. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for your work as well. Chair recognizes the Senator from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm making this announcement for my vice chair, and I want to welcome the Alzheimer's Association, which was here, or I think they are still here, in one of the observatories. Thank you.
Excellent. Welcome. Welcome. I think we're still here. It looks as though we also have some of the House pages who are joining us here today. It's House pages. Welcome. Welcome to the upper chamber. We hope we're thrilled for your work. You'll get to see some bill hearings. We don't know when that'll happen. Our second readers, we're hoping we'll see those sometime in the House chamber here soon. So excellent. So welcome. Thank you all for being here. Any other introductions or guests before we jump in? If not, all right. So we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. Our first order of business is the introduction of Senate bills. Clerk will read the bills.
Senate Bill 485, Senator Hayes, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program Modifications, Finance. Senate Bill 486, Senator Hayes, Correctional Services, Maryland Correctional Enterprises Management Council Report, Judicial Proceedings.
All right, the bills will be referred to their appropriate standing committees. We have Senate bond initiatives, calendar number 8. Clerk will read the bond initiative.
Number 1, Senator Carrozza, Ocean City Sports Complex, Budget and Taxation.
All right, the bond initiative will be referred to the Capital Budget Subcommittee. We have our first, number 1, report, second reader report out of Education, Energy, and the Environment. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 122, Senator Augustine, Education Provisions of Maryland Youth Crisis Hotline Telephone Number, Alteration, Favorable.
All right, Chair recognizes Senator President Pro Tem, the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters the name of the crisis hotline that must be provided by a local board of education to each student in grades 6 through 12 from the Maryland Youth Crisis Hotline to the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. A local board of education is not required to reprint or reissue school handbooks or student identification cards in use on the effective date of the bill in order to comply with the bill. The bill takes effect July 1st, 2024. There are no committee amendments. There's no fiscal impact. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 122 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 250, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, County Public Libraries, Overdue Library Materials, Minors, favorable.
Chair recognizes the vice chair as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our libraries are community gathering centers, educational resources, jobs, mental health, housing. They provide so many services, and yet sometimes they're not equitably available. This is our latest library bill to welcome people and welcome minors under 18 back to the libraries without fear of punishment. We have passed fine-free bills in the past. They are currently law, and this clarifies that someone under 18, a minor under 18, would not have to pay a late fee if they are returning an item within 21 days. Now, if they pay to and have a lost item, this clarifies that the counties would not be required, but they could refund the money. But if they bring it back a couple of years late, at some point the library has probably already replaced the item. This does not apply to special items, specialty items, historic things, cooking equipment, things that really can't be out of the library for an extended period of time. There was no testimony that showed up against the bill. This was seen as pretty reasonable and important equity bill. So I move the favorable report, Mr. President.
All right, the floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if the floor leader would be willing to yield.
Floor leader yield.
for
But of
questions.
Chair may proceed.
So I'm looking through the bill and just trying to get a better understanding of because we passed legislation, I did not support it, but we passed legislation in 2021 to make it to where minors don't pay fines already, or what's current law without this bill as it relates to minors and fines?
So we believe that fines are a disincentive for people to come to the library. They're people who can't afford it. They're people who lose stuff or misplace it, don't have easy access. And so we just want to make sure that any barrier has been removed so that patrons, and especially our minors, who have had challenges with COVID and learning at home and all that, will feel welcomed in the libraries.
Fees are also a disincentive for not returning. For returning, it's an incentive to return what you borrowed. But but I thought we already had no fines for minors. So what's this? As I'm reading, I thought that's what the bill did in 2021.
This clarifies that, especially for minors, we're going to encourage them to come back in and not have fines as a disincentive.
I thought that was already, Mr. President. My
The
question.
state librarian testified and thought that this was important to clarify. And again, it also speaks to the fact that if there is a fee that is paid for a lost item that is more than 3 weeks overdue, that the local county would not be required to refund that money, which is an incentive to hurry up and return the item so others can use it.
Right. I mean, I'm glad that that they're allowing for that clarification on that score. But I guess my confusion would be, why would anybody ever pay a fine if they don't have to, if they're a minor? Why do we need to clarify?
So there is there's testimony in here that Baltimore County and presumably other counties will also not allow people to take additional books out until they return or pay a fee. So if you want to engage, if you want to use the library, it is people who are economically challenged that rely on the library the most, and the fees hit them the hardest.
Well, I understand. I do think that libraries are an important spot for everybody in the community. Obviously, for folks who don't have some of the resources, we do know libraries are extremely important, and I'm a big supporter of public libraries. I guess my question is, if we're not going to be collecting fees anymore for products that have been taken and not returned, or books that have been taken and not returned, and I assume videos and other types of things, where does the funding come from to replace those without fines?
So the fiscal note indicates that this is modest. The assumption is, the belief is that most people do return their books. They do return their library items in a timely way. Some people slip a little bit. They want to finish the book. They want to watch the video again, but they do understand that they need to bring it back so they can also take out more books and more other items from the library.
But I can tell you locally, my library is always asking for more resources, and which is fine. I'm not being critical, but even a modest hit to me impacts the bottom line for our taxpayers. So this is passing this bill mean we will no longer collect any fees or fines from minors who don't return a non-special. I know there's some special items in here that this doesn't apply to, but we're basically saying we're no longer going to collect any more fines or fees
No.
for late books.
No, they can still charge a replacement fee. So I lost the book, I checked it out weeks ago, I can't find it. You can pay the replacement fee. Oh, I found it, bring it back. And I suspect that if it's in a reasonably timely way, that the library will refund the money. They might not have purchased a new book yet, so here we get our book back, we're happy campers. If it's been months and months, they might have replaced the book, they've already spent the money, so thanks very much, but you paid the fee, and we're not required in this bill. The library would not be required to refund the money. They can, but they would not be required to.
So if let me give an example, because I'm really just trying to understand how this all works, and I appreciate the answers. I'm still a little unclear why we need the bill, because we've already passed in law. I know parts of this bill we need to clarify that you don't have to refund a replacement fee, which is a good thing. If I am if my son or daughter checks out some books, which they do, I take them. They love to check out books.
Good.
And they don't already. You can automatically renew. At least in the Carroll County Public Library, you shouldn't really ever have to pay a fine, because you can always, like, even online, go and automatic renew. As far as I know, it may not be true for every library system. So there really isn't ever a need for an overdue fee, probably, with responsible management.
And it's current law.
And it's current law. So why would I ever cop to having lost a book? Can I come in and check? Is this bill going to say that does this bill still, if we pass this, would a library still be allowed to say, hey, you've got some overdue books, so you can't check any more out?
Correct. So here are three options. There's a minor who got a book out. Number one, they read the book, they enjoy it, or they don't. They return it on time. Yay, nothing. They read the book, they enjoy it or not, and they return it a little bit late. No fees. They read the book and enjoy it or not, and they've lost it, and they don't know where it is. At some point, a couple of months later, the library says, that was a really popular book. We want to buy a new one. So we're going to expend the money. We're going to charge this minor to pay for the new item. The minor then later finds the book and wants to return it. I'm sure the library would be happy to take it back, but they've already paid to replace it. The library has already expended the money to replace it, hence the lack of a fiscal impact, and then the book is back in circulation for others.
What if the minor loses the book, does not pay a replacement fee, and
Then
they can't ever check a book out already? That's current
that's
law.
the worst possible scenario.
But we don't want that.
We don't want that. We want minors to come to the library and learn and engage and use the computer and check out materials and continue to grow and flourish.
I agree with you on the concept of that. I think the challenge, and thank you for your answers. I maybe just speak for a moment to the bill, Mr. President. There may be some other questions. Trying to understand, also the word equity is getting thrown around a lot. I don't know what that implies, that some people won't return library books. I think that probably spans the generations of irresponsible young people. Yours truly may have had to pay a replacement fee at a school library once, and then found the book later, which was probably frustrating to my parents. The replacement fee for children's books generally is relatively modest, by the way, I would imagine. We're not talking about the Encyclopedia Britannica. So I think the concern that with this, and we passed something in 2021, and the concern then was, and coming out at, we always talk about the pandemic, the concern is this is a great measure for society to teach management and personal responsibility. And I get asked a lot about what's the most important thing we're dealing with down here this session. Of course, we've talked a lot about crime, which we will. We've talked a lot about the budget and other issues. One of the biggest things when we see societal problems is in a community is a gradual breakdown of responsibility. Now, I am not suggesting that late overdue library books are the reason for violent crime, but I am saying as elected officials and as a government and as a library system, because they're asking for this, these are the kind of things that over time make an impact. And so I have a lot of concerns about this bill. I think the bill should be repealing that legislation and adding in some of these provisions about giving grace is fine, but this is basically further codifying what I believe is an irresponsible practice. Obviously this is not third reader, so we'll have maybe some additional discussion on third reader. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator. Yes, Chair recognizes the Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you,
On the
Mr.
report.
President. Could I also ask some questions of the floor
Yield.
leader? So let me preface this by saying my family is a library-friendly family. My wife is currently the treasurer of the Baltimore County Public Library, and she used to be on the board of the Pratt, Enoch Pratt Library downtown. And from our conversations, I know different library systems have different policies. One of the hallmarks of the state of Maryland is every single county has a library system. And each library system does things that they think are the best for their patrons. So my concern about this is a one-size-fits-all system that overlays the entire state of Maryland. So let me ask you a question. Suppose there's a library system in one of our smaller counties, and one of the components of its annual budget are the late fees that people pay for taking out books and not returning them on time. As I understand this bill, it will say if you're a minor, you no longer have to pay any more late fees. Isn't that going to affect the bottom line of that particular library system and maybe make it more difficult for that system to discharge its responsibilities to its patrons?
Thank you, the senator from Baltimore County. Thank you for your support of libraries. I grew up and still am a huge library fiend. I think that ideally we want young people to be responsible and be responsive and all that. The county libraries want this, and I gave you testimony from Baltimore County, which was frankly the only county that submitted, and they especially want this bill. This is clarifying, and this is making sure that everyone has access, and they were really specific that they don't think this is going to have a fiscal impact. It's just making sure that every young person feels welcome in a library and feels the opportunity to check out materials regardless of if they misplaced something or if an item is late.
Yes, and I really want to thank you for providing me with this letter of information from the county executive in Baltimore County. I do note, and I know from my conversations at home, that in the Baltimore County system, back in 2021, they waived late fees, not only for minors, but for adults as well.
Correct. That is current law.
But again, that was the decision of the Baltimore County Public Library System. It was able to do that consistent with its budget. My concern about this bill is you're going to have a county, and I won't name the county, one of the other counties in the state, not Baltimore County, which will find that its budget is adversely impacted by not receiving these fees.
So I will say that personally, this senator does not like unfunded mandates. I'm really vigilant about those. Our excellent fiscal folks did not think that this was going to have a negative fiscal impact on any of our counties. Maryland Association of Counties did not come in and see this as an unfunded mandate. Nobody saw this as a fiscal threat. They saw this as policy. The librarians asked for it. The state librarian, who's retiring in a few months, asked for this, thought it was important policy, and that's why our committee approved it, and we seek to move this forward. Thank you for your questions.
I appreciate your answers to my questions, and I look forward to talking with my wife when I get home.
Dinner conversation. All right, questions on the favorable report? Any further discussion? Yes, Chair recognizes Minority Leader on the report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick question. We're trying to find out where, this says it goes back to chapter 27 of the education article from 2021, but...
This is a question to the floor leader.
Yes, I'm sorry.
The floor leader,
Question. Yeah.
Senator, may proceed.
Going into the fiscal note, it specifically talks about this bill, and you'd mentioned that clarifies the intent of chapter 27 of 2021. And we are looking for the bill that was passed in 2021, and it referenced a community college bill. Is that where this is referenced back to?
I am afraid that that is not something that came up in the hearing and is not included in the testimony.
Okay, because
Senator, I'm instructed it's House Bill 1000.
House Bill 1000 from 2021?
2021.
Well, thank you very much then. Thank you. I'll take a look at that.
All right, on the favorable, any further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 250 is hereby ordered, printed for third reader. If anyone doesn't have the app, the Libby app is a great audiobook that many of our libraries utilize, and it's an excellent tool. You don't have to return the book, it just returns itself. So, all right, clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 292, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, State Government, Deputy Secretary of State, title, favorable.
Chair recognizes the chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill comes from our Secretary of State, former member of this body. There's been an office within the Department of State called Deputy Secretary of State for many, many, many years, but in reviewing the statute refers to Assistant Secretary of State, and so all this bill does is renames the title of Assistant Secretary of State to Deputy Secretary of State. Bill takes effect June 1, 2024. There was no opposition. Bill passed unanimously, no fiscal note. Moved favorable committee report, Mr. President. And no amendments as well.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Chair recognizes the vice chair on the report.
Would the chairman yield?
Chairman yield. Uh-oh.
I'm just so curious, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Why you got the really hard bill.
Uh-oh.
No comment.
That sounds like a conversation over lunch. That's No, all right. On the report, any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the report say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 292 is hereby ordered, printed for third reading. All right. Desk is clear. We've got bills moving through the queue. We are rocking and rolling this year. Let's do committee reports. Chair recognizes the Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make one correction from an earlier statement. It was the ALS Association that was here in the gallery behind me. So my apologies. That's what happens when you don't have your notes in front of you. But I do have the notes for the committee report. And today, the Finance Committee at 1 o'clock will have a report from the Workmen's Compensation Commission. It'll be a briefing, and the Prescription Drug Affordability Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair recognizes the Chair of Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. President. That committee will meet at 1 p.m. today. We've got 10 bills on the calendar. 10 bills.
1 p.m., rocking and rolling. Vice Chair of Budget and Tax.
It's a good question. Someone needs to help me here. Seriously, I was expecting the chair to be at the ready.
Why don't we go to the Vice Chair of Judicial Proceedings and we'll come back.
Let's do that, yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet at 1 p.m. today for bill hearings.
All right, Vice Chair of Judicial Proceedings says that committee will be 1 p.m. this afternoon.
I'd like to yield the floor to the chairman of the Budget and Tax Committee.
The Chair for Budget and Tax.
So grateful for that yielding. At 1 o'clock, we'll be having a briefing on gaming.
1 o'clock, gaming. Excellent. Fun times. Fun times. All right. Any other standing committees, select committees, caucuses? Other announcements? Chair recognizes the Senator from District 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we have our Bible study, and we would love to see everybody come out in the Neil room at 8 o'clock in the morning. Again, you can come by my office, have a nice cup of coffee, and come down and have prayer. Thank you, Mr. President.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Chair recognizes the Senator from Western Maryland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, last week we had PACE Week. This week things are moving east, and today is Washington County Day. So first of all, thanks everyone for meeting with the folks from town. They're going to be out throughout the day. By now you've probably received a box of goodies, which reminds me there should be a pint glass for the flying boxcars. And wait, there's more. So if you come tonight to the Calvert House, you will be receiving one of these fantastic Maryland-themed aprons. So we appreciate everyone coming to the Calvert House this evening and celebrating Washington County Day. Thank you.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. We appreciate the advertisement. This is the Senate, folks. This is not the other chamber. Not the other chamber. All right. Let's pull it together. Let's pull it together. All right. Senator recognizes the senator from District 11.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If you have not already and would like to join as an associate member of the new Maryland Jewish Legislative Caucus, please let me know, because we have an upcoming meeting with the governor, and we'd love to include you. Thank you.
All right. Chair recognizes the senator from Prince George's.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to invite the body to the Maryland Alliance for College Affordability and Equity. They organize a legislative college affordability day today at the Calvert House from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. We invite you all. Our free lunch is on that advocacy group. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. Any further announcements for today? Anything else happening today? If not, any other business? All right, Madam Clerk, let's call the roll for a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? All right, has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 42 members in the chamber, a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session. Chair recognizes the Deputy Majority Leader on.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adjourn until 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Excellent. Without objection, so ordered. Have a wonderful day, everyone.